Right now, noon cleanup underway in parts of Wisconsin after historic rainfall fell over the weekend. Plus, President Trump deploying federal law enforcement in D.C., how he's efforting to target crime and homelessness in the nation's capital. This is News 3 Now at noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Breiter. Historic flooding continues to impact parts of Wisconsin this afternoon after historic rain fell in many areas across the state. This is a live look at the Fox River in Waukesha at this hour. There was so much rain in the Badger State on Saturday, it could mark a new state record. One city rain gauge measuring 14.5 inches in 24 hours. If confirmed by forecasters, that would break the previous state record of just under 12 inches set in 1946. Milwaukee County declaring a state of emergency Sunday as the Milwaukee River crested to a record of more than 11 feet. Milwaukee's fire department performing dozens of water rescues. Meanwhile, families in Wauwatosa are still unsure what their homes will look like once the Menominee River recedes. At one point, the river rose to over 14 feet. A long stretch of Menominee River Parkway turned into an extension of the river with homes partially submerged. Tosa firefighters and the DNR spent much of yesterday rescuing people by boat. The Baxters are just one of those families whose homes flooded in an instant.
I was a little nervous. I mean, when I first saw it, the water was coming up towards the garage. So I called my dad and I was a little bit nervous since they weren't home, but I think I handled it pretty well. Kind of just stayed on the high ground, but it was a little nerve-wracking.
I was shocked by what I saw. When Braylee called me this morning and she said, "Hey Dad, it's getting bad down here and the water's getting high." So we did a FaceTime real quick just so I could see it, and I was shocked at what I saw.
Special cleanup of debris is expected to start today as several roads remain closed. As cleanup efforts continue across our area this morning, officials are urging drivers to stay alert and drive carefully. The Grant County Sheriff's Office warning commuters and residents to prepare for potential flash flooding. Their 911 center has already received multiple calls reporting flood-related incidents. Authorities also encourage everyone to check on family, neighbors, and others who might need assistance. One resident shared with us an up-close look at the storm's destruction.
What was in here?
I lost a lot of my Christmas ornaments, which
probably were passed down.
A lot of them were passed down, and some of my precious moments that my parents gave me.
Bagley and Boscobel fire officials opened their doors to residents who needed to evacuate from flooding. Right now, officials in Iowa County are also asking drivers to give themselves some extra time and report any road blockages. Commuters can notify the Emergency Management Office by calling 608-930-9500 and then press option 2. But just remember, debris is not the only thing that can halt your travel today, as roads may also still be flooded. If you do see a flooded road, just remember the saying, turn around, don't drown. More chances of rain as we kick off this week. Here's meteorologist Jacob Montesano with the first warn forecast. It's hard to believe that we just got that much rain.
Yeah, now thankfully at this moment in time, we're not seeing any rain, but unfortunately there is more rain in the forecast later today and tonight. Now there are still some flood warnings in effect for areas near Milwaukee, but Madison's viewing area, not seeing any of that right now. Doesn't mean there isn't some minor flooding out there, as Josh just mentioned, through all of them, but at least for the rest of today, we are going to get a little bit of a break. Now, although there is a chance of rain tomorrow, it's not going to be nearly as much as what we saw over the weekend, but we still could see some of those pockets of heavy rain. So mostly dry for the rest of today. Some light showers are going to move in early tonight, but the bulk of the rain that I'm referring to is going to be later in the night and into Tuesday morning. We are going to see some scattered showers roll through the area. Could see a few thunderstorms during this time frame, and then we could see some additional, more isolated storms once we get to the afternoon. I'll continue talking more about that a bit later, but for the rest of today, it is going to be pretty nice, a little bit on the warm side at times, but we'll see a good amount of cloud cover, highs in the middle to lower 80s. Humidity levels aren't going to be too bad today either, and then we are going to see that rain move in overnight. Another mild night, though, as lows are only going to drop to around 70. And then for your Tuesday, again, we are going to see a little bit of a storm chance for the afternoon hours, a little bit more isolated, though, as highs will be around 80. So, temperature-wise, the next 2 days are going to be pretty good. And after that rain tomorrow, we are going to remain, we're going to see dry conditions return for Wednesday and Thursday. So overall, the amount of rain we're going to see in the next couple of days won't be too bad. I know, obviously, that's the big topic of conversation right now. we could see some of those pockets of heavy rain for tomorrow's rainfall. So I'll talk more in detail about that coming up a bit later.
All right, Jacob, we'll see you then. Thank you. Today, the Sun Prairie School District will host a school board meeting. This is the first since prosecutors charged a former dean of West High School with sex crimes. Investigations revealed 30-year-old Robert Gilkey Meisegeier had sexual contact with at least one student inside the school, kept hundreds of clothed and unclothed photos of female students, and bought students alcohol in exchange for nude photos. District parents are calling for the administration to step down. A criminal complaint alleges the district HR department investigated a tip about Gilkey Meisegeier but did not report it to police. The school board meeting is set to begin at 6 tonight. Right now, President Trump is ordering federal officials and forces to the streets to Washington, D.C. to help combat crime and move out the homeless. But D.C. officials say they've already taken steps to reduce crime. Police data shows violent crime is down 26% over the last year, and homicides are down 12%.
We've done that by working with the community, working with the police, working with our prosecutors, and in fact, working with the federal government.
The president's announcement comes as he's preparing for a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the end of the week. A point of contention is what happens to territory and land seized during the fighting there. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is not scheduled to attend, says, quote, Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier, end quote. Well, still ahead for us on News 3 Now at noon. If you have a question or concern about your plants or garden, now's the time to send us your questions via email to tips@channel3000.com. Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company will join us later in the broadcast with the answers. But first, after the break, what movies topped the box office over the weekend, plus how much the U.S. Postal Service is proposing to raise prices for the upcoming holiday season.
The U.S. Postal Service has proposed a temporary price hike this coming holiday season for some priority and ground advantage package services for retail and commercial customers. The increases range from 30 cents to $16, depending on the zone and weight of the parcels. In a statement, the company says the price adjustments will, quote, help cover extra handling costs to ensure a successful peak season. If approved, the temporary rates would go into effect October 5th through January 18th. Horror film Weapons topped the weekend box office, hauling in more than $42 million. It beat out the long-awaited comedy sequel Freakier Friday, which debuted at number 2 with $29 million. And the Fantastic Four First Steps is still soaring at the 3rd spot after pulling in more than $15 million. And Dermarite Industries is recalling some of its over-the-counter antiseptic soaps and cleansers, including DermaClean and Clean Foam. The FDA says the recalled products may be contaminated with bacteria that could cause a serious or life-threatening infection. Patients are urged to contact their healthcare provider if they experience any adverse effects after using the products. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Jesse Mitchell.
Here's a look at the current stock numbers at the noon hour. The Dow is down 138 points, NASDAQ is up 45, and the S&P 500 up 3. Pam has the farm numbers ahead, and Jacob is tracking the first warn forecast and later on Live at 4. Advice for parents and kids' mental health as they get ready to head back to school. Welcome back. Let's check in now with Pam Yankee for the Midwest Farm Report on a Monday. How you doing, Pam?
Well, you know, we're doing better than a lot of folks did over the weekend with that heavy rain that you guys were talking about. I'm still getting reports from my rainfall reporters. The good news is most of the winter wheat in southern Wisconsin's already been harvested. And from what I'm hearing, quality of that crop, very, very good. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Want to share a couple more pictures from our fantastic tour through Canada. We started in Calgary, went all the way to Banff, Jasper, on to through Kamloops, Vancouver Island. You know, it's not exactly what you expect when you're looking at drought conditions in Canada, but when you're on the Columbia ice flow, you get a chance to drink glacier water. Yeah, we took a snowcat onto the Columbia ice field, which is an existing glacier, and got a chance to really experience what it's like to watch global warming impact that kind of a feed heat of nature. It's receded quite a little bit over the past decade's time, but while we were there, the sun was shining, and we got a chance to sample some of that glacier water. Delicious, and kind of an interesting feat of engineering when you think about trying to get a group of people out there. That normally is the kind of equipment that you'd see in mining, but that's exactly what we rode out on the glacier. And then it was on to Vancouver, where as soon as we got off the train, we went to Lulu Winery. This is literally just on the outskirts of Vancouver. What they have done is find kind of a microclimate just north of Vancouver where they can produce some fantastic grape varieties that they turn into award-winning wines. Just learning about that microcosm of weather that they're working with, it's something that is similar to the weather pattern in Napa, even similar to what we have here in Wisconsin, where we're picking varietal grapes that do well in Wisconsin's weather, both winter and summer, and turn into award-winning wine. So a really nice group visit at Lulu Island Wineries, I should say, just outside of Vancouver. Want to go back to what I mentioned earlier. We're getting reports now on our winter wheat harvest around southern Wisconsin. Alex Beaver, who is one of the crop specialists with Inside FS over in Jefferson, said that the yields have been looking real good. We've got plenty of farmers that have been knocking on the door for 100 bushel to the acre on average. Kind of depends on when you had a chance to put that wheat in last year at this time. Remember, last year at this time, Wisconsin was very, very dry, but still nice yields. Not too much of issues when it comes to test weight. Maybe a little bit of concern here and there as far as dockage is concerned, but for the most part, our Wisconsin winter wheat crop looking very, very good. Today in Chicago, the barreled cheese gains 1/4 cent to 1.80. 40-pound block cheese on a Monday up a penny at 1.86, but a downward trend we're continuing to monitor in butter. That's down another 1.5 pennies to start the week, Josh. $2.34 a pound. So like I said, just kind of continue to revolve around the weather. We've got a couple weeks now, well, I'll say a couple weeks, before Wisconsin farmers get real busy with corn silage. But right now, remember, capitalize on sweet corn. The potato crop, according to Larry Olsom up in Friesland, is on the way. And I'm guessing that a brown bag of tomatoes could land on your doorstep sometime soon. The fall produce is starting to come.
Yeah, you mentioned sweet corn. I'm going to be up at the Sweet Corn Festival in the 608 later this week, too. So a lot to look forward to coming up the next couple of weeks, Pam.
All right. Good man. We'll see you later.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Pam. We want to get some breaking news now in Middleton. Several emergency crews are at a hazmat spill right now. This is a live look at the scene on Discovery Drive. Both lanes of Discovery Drive are currently closed from Parmenter Street to Deming Way. According to the city of Middleton, there is no threat to the public at this time. Again, a live look here. Crews still on the scene. You can stay with News 3 Now on channel3000.com for updates. Well, the chances for rain staying in the forecast for now. Here's meteorologist Jacob Montesano with your first warn weather.
Thanks, Josh. We are going to see that rain later tonight and into tomorrow. But then for Wednesday and Thursday, we have a very low chance of rain and a very high chance of a lot of sunshine. Now, temperatures are expected to warm up by the end of the week, where we could see some highs return to the upper 80s. Now, I do want to start also with the air quality alerts right now for our area, just in effect for Juneau and Adams counties, but they are in effect for pretty much all of northern Wisconsin and most of Minnesota until 3 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, the good news is that obviously the air quality alerts are north of Madison, so it does look like the smoke, at least the heaviest smoke, will stay north. And right now, we're not seeing any of that lower air quality, even for Juneau and Adams County. Good to moderate right now. But zooming further out, you can see the unhealthy for some to unhealthy levels for northern Minnesota. And some of that will move into Wisconsin, especially the northern portion of the state. You can see that heavier wildfire smoke really staying off to the north with more light smoke in southern Wisconsin. But then we could see an additional round of smoke once we get to the later portion of the day, Tuesday and into Wednesday. But once again, it does look like the heaviest will stay off to the north. We're continuing to keep an eye on it, but just be aware, especially for those of you in central Wisconsin, air quality will remain rather low. Now, as we take a look at the rainfall, again, we're not seeing anything right now, but we are going to see some later tonight and into tomorrow. And it could bring some very minor severe weather, marginal risk for areas to the north and east. Not expecting a widespread severe weather day, but we could see a storm or two produce some strong winds and maybe some minor hail. Now, again, this is not going to be for the rest of today. We'll see on and off cloud cover with a very, very small chance of rain, but should be pretty dry. And then once we get to the later overnight hours, we'll see some scattered showers and a few isolated storms roll through. But this first round of rain late tonight and into Tuesday morning will mostly be in the form of some moderate to maybe heavy showers. But then once we get towards the afternoon hours, we'll dry up for the late morning, early afternoon, and then we're going to see some of these pop-up showers and storms develop. And these are the storms that could produce some minor severe weather, also could produce some small pockets of heavy rainfall. However, we're not expecting a widespread heavy rain event, just a few isolated locations. And most of the area may not see any rain during this time anyway. So again, this is not going to be a big issue, but obviously for those of you that are experiencing the flooding right now from this past weekend, it may become an issue if that heavy rain does impact your given area. Now, once we get to Tuesday night, we'll dry up, and then we're almost certainly going to be dry for Wednesday and Thursday before we do see the rain chances slowly increase from Friday, and especially once we get to the later portion of the weekend. Now, looking at the temperatures the next couple of days, today we're going to have highs in the middle to lower 80s, a little bit of cloud cover from here from time to time, but for the most part, not going to see too much in terms of rain or clouds for that matter. And then as we get into Tuesday, I mentioned those storm chances, with more storm chances by the time we get to the weekend. And highs for the most part, not too bad. They will get warm once we get to Friday and Saturday, with also the humidity levels increasing Saturday. Could see those heat indices in the 90s on that day. But that's the only day over the next 10 that we will see some very warm temperatures, which certainly some good news considering, we've had a lot of hot days lately. Not going to see a lot of that going forward. And hopefully we've seen an end to that brutal heat, considering it is August, the average temperature now going down. But summer's certainly not over yet, as there's a lot of 80s in the forecast.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Well, today Howard is kicking off a whole week of carnival and fair favorites in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
One of my favorite things to do when the weather's nice is to take in as many fairs and festivals as possible. Sure, I love the rides in the Midway, but my favorite part has to be the food. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to eat healthy, but at a fair, that's the place to have fun and indulge every once in a while. And in case you haven't been to one recently, all this week we're sharing some of our favorite fair finds that you can easily make at home. Today, we're starting off with something called root beer dogs. It's a close cousin to the corn dog, but rather than dipping them in corn batter, we've dipped them in a batter that's accented with root beer. Then we fry them till they're golden. And since the hot dogs are already cooked, these take no time. You see, the root beer adds a nice touch of sweetness, which is a nice contrast to the saltiness of the hot dog. Maybe serve these with some deli mustard and get ready for some fun eating. As always, we have the complete recipe for you on MrFood.com. Just type in root beer dogs and you'll be able to enjoy the taste of the fair all year long. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, and we'll see you back here tomorrow as we make another fair favorite that'll have you saying, ooh, it's so good.
Ahead at noon, Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company is here answering your plant and garden questions. Email them to tips@channel3000.com. We'll get the answers next. Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company is here answering your plant and garden questions. Email them now to tips@channel3000.com. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Lots of questions today,
Yes.
so we're going to get right to it. We're going to start with Joel. Joel sent us a photo. He wants to know what happened to his tomatoes.
Okay, so Joel, your tomatoes have blossom end rot, which is a fungal thing that is caused by erratic watering or a low calcium levels in the soil. Yours are probably in pots, so what you want to do is make sure they stay evenly moist, don't dry out completely between waterings, and then get a fertilizer for tomatoes that has added calcium. That should help any that are not affected yet, but the ones that already have those ends, throw them away.
All right. Question number 2 comes from Ronald. Ronald asks, can perennial salvia be divided and when is best?
It can, Ronald, and the best time to do dividing of salvia is in the spring when it first starts to emerge. You don't want to do it now while it's flowering.
All right, question number 3. Mary says she has a 13-year-old lilac bush which seems to die back each year at this time of the year. Leaves all turn brown and eventually fall off. The bush comes back each spring. What could be causing this?
It sounds like it's something fungal, but I would ask that either you bring some samples into the garden center or you can send us some photos of the leaves that are affected, and that's plantdesk@brucecompany.com, and we'll all take a look.
All right, I think we got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
We're going to end with Bernie. Bernie sent us a photo as well that I showed you. It shows ornamental grass growing, and he says he can't pull it out. How can he get rid of it?
So that grass is called Carl Forster. It's a featherweed grass, and it's actually one of the more popular ornamental grasses. If you can't dig it, it does have quite a root system. So it won't pull out. You'll have to dig it out. It is a clumping grass, which means it won't be sending runners all over. The other way to do it is to use a herbicide.
All right, some good questions today. All right, Lisa, thank you as always. We appreciate it. And thanks for watching News 3 Now at noon. Coming up next is The Bold and the Beautiful. Our next newscast is coming up at 4 o'clock today with Susan and Brady. And you can always find us streaming 24/7 on Channel 3000+. Make it a great afternoon. We'll see you back here tomorrow.